and we've got a handful of questions here over the last, I don't know what, 7 days maybe, from churches that are in the middle of a hiring process, and all of a sudden, COVID-19, coronavirus, whatever we're calling it today, it's flared up and changed the reality of people's ministry. And so we have churches that are asking us, hey, what do we do? Do we pause a search? Do we cancel a search? Do we keep doing it? How do we react? And how do we react when we're doing like a million other things too, because of the way that this has changed our ministry so quickly? So Todd, maybe we could take a couple minutes and talk through why we would pause a search, why we would continue a search, and maybe why don't you dive in and kind of share some reasons why it would be a good idea for a church not to continue a search right now?
Sure. So, everything's changed, right? Priorities have changed, and we have a lot. Well, as church leaders, we always have a lot on our plate, but it seems like everything's shifted on our plate here in the last bit of time. So, why would you pause a search? I can think of 3 reasons, Matt. You probably have more, but let me go over the 3 that kind of hit me as we were talking about doing this video today. First thing is, if you are unsure how your church is going to do financially in the next season, and you're unsure if you're going to be able to actually pay this position and sustain this position for 18 months. That would be one of the criteria I would use. Now, honestly, that's a criteria we use with churches all the time, whether we're in this time of crisis or not. But that would be one of the things I would look at. Now, just know this, every church right now is nervous, and every church is looking at their budget and wondering what this is going to look like for their budget and how they're going to come across on the other side of this. This isn't the time to freak out, but it is a time to be prudent and to look and see if you really think that you're in a good, solid financial position and you can sustain this position for 18 months. Then I would continue. If you are questioning that, the last thing you want to do is bring somebody in and not be able to pay for them and their family in the long term. So look for that 18-month window. The second thing I would say is maybe something that's happened during this crisis has caused you to kind of reprioritize or reevaluate the position that you were going to hire. For example, maybe because you're taking so much of your service and realigning it to be able to produce this product's not a good word, the service, and your outreach online, maybe this is the time where you need to really look at shifting to hiring a tech person or somebody that can help your current staff take things from in-person gatherings to more of an online. So maybe right now you need a tech person more than a children's person. That's something that would cause me to think about, maybe I pause this and try and figure this out a little bit more. And then the third thing, Matt, that I was thinking is so much has shifted, so much more is on our plates now. If you just feel like this is a little overwhelming right now and you're not sure and you just need to take some time to build into your current team and your current staff, this might be a good time to put a short pause on this search so that you make sure that the team that you have is well cared for and is healthy through this really unprecedented time. Those are the 3 things I thought of, Matt. Any thoughts or any things you would add to those as far as when a church should maybe look at pausing?
I think you hit the biggies. Definitely want to be able to fund this for 18 months. I would say, don't press pause right now for that or for that. Give it a couple of Sundays. See how things are going, that kind of thing before you press pause at that point. But yes, definitely want to be able to fund the service or fund the position. Definitely on reprioritizing, maybe all of a sudden your worship guy needs to be able to stream services and maybe doesn't have to lead the handbell choir anymore. And so there might be some changing of job descriptions. And then the only other thing is, a logistical challenge. So you may need to reevaluate and may need to press pause just because your current structure for the search, maybe you have a search team that's made up of people that aren't necessarily technologically savvy and Zoom calls aren't necessarily going to be the easiest thing for them. Or perhaps you have a lot of doctors or hospital workers on that team, and all of a sudden logistics are going to be a nightmare to get everybody together, you may want to press pause on that as well. That's one of the things that we're able to help churches with, and if you handle a lot of the logistical challenges early on, so that you can focus on either developing your team, pouring into them, and making pivots, while we handle a lot of that initial front end work. But I would definitely say that, if you need to rebuild that team or figure out the logistics, then it probably is wise to push pause. Now, you push pause, do it with compassion, do it with clarity, and make sure that you really are intentional about communicating to people what's going on. So, we've got a blog post. We'll drop the link below on what to do if you pause it, just some real practical suggestions on that. So let's talk a little bit about why to not pause a search. And I think some of these will make a good bit of sense, just based on what we've already talked about. And my list is pretty short and it'll sound familiar. First of all is, if you have the reserves in place to be able to pay for this, and the financials are not in doubt, then absolutely go forward with this. Do not let the general sense of panic slow this down if you're confident in your reserves. The second thing is, if the need for this role is going to remain the same, or is going to be greater as a result of the way things have changed, then by all means you need to get rolling with this. We tell churches to expect a minimum of 6 months to find somebody on their own. Just the process of vetting resumes and doing interviews and all of that kind of stuff, and then visits and all that. So we tell churches, if they're doing a search on their own, it's going to take at least 6 months to do that search. And we want to make sure that a pause here doesn't set your ministry back, 12 months because of the time that goes into it. The last thing is, if it's a faithful and wise move, to proceed with the search and do it. And so what do I mean when it's faithful and wise? So if it's wise, so financially and the need and all that, definitely, if it's wise in that. But there's also a faithful component. So it is easy for us in these seasons to panic and say, oh no, we're not having services on Sunday morning in person anymore. The whole thing, everything, the sky's falling, everything's burning down. There's a component to our role as church leaders to be a non-anxious presence and to be faithful and believe that God is not surprised by this. And so if it is a faithful move, meaning that we are convinced that God is calling us to this, that God has put this on us and said, for such a time as this, we need this role, and it makes sense and is wise, and then you need to move forward with this. Todd, what did I forget on that?
I think you're totally right. So we've talked to a lot of church leaders in the past week. And I am incredibly excited about the resilience and the passion that most of the church leaders that we talk to are dealing with this. I don't know that we've talked with anyone that's really freaking out at this point. It's a new reality. Things are going to be different. But the church, quite honestly, has faced much harder times than this. And so there's going to be a tendency, according to what your personality is, and I've had to deal with this past week too, to either look at what we're going through right now as a total freak out moment or a total time of opportunity. And this has great opportunities for the church, for your church, for the Big C Church. It has great opportunities for your team and for your staff and the way that you're able to minister and reach people. But it's going to be different. And so I would echo what you said, Matt. Don't make any decisions right now. We're recording this kind of 10 days in or so. So most churches did their first live stream or had their first Sunday that they weren't able to meet in person this past Sunday. It looks like that's going to continue for at least a few more weeks, maybe into Easter or even.
I'm telling churches probably 90 days minimum.
Yeah, I think so. I think so too. So we're like one Sunday into a multi-Sunday thing here. Don't make any rash decisions, particularly on huge directional things like searches. There may come a time in the next month where you need to hit pause. There may come that time, but I don't know that that's the time yet. there's a time to be prudent. There's a time to be responsible, but don't be rash.
So we'd love if we can walk with you through this. Our contact information is below. We would love to have a conversation if it would be helpful for you. No expectations. We just want to make sure that you guys navigate this season well, and the rest of our team is available as well. So love to help you guys walk through this. Let us know how we can serve.